This is the Better Life Podcast, where we talk about real estate investing, building wealth, and all in all living a better life. My name is Brandon Turner, and I've spent my life investing in real estate to achieve financial freedom. And alongside my co-host, Mr. Cathcart, we want to help you do the same. On the show, you're going to hear from world-class guests who have been handpicked to help you level up your investing, your leadership, your goals, your habits, and more to become the very best version of yourself. So join us as we explore the habits, the actions, the beliefs that it takes to build wealth through real estate investing without losing your soul.
And I think a lot of people, if they invest 100% of their time into that, they can make $15,000 to $20,000 literally next month.
So now that might be overwhelming to somebody. They're going, I can't, 100 a year?
If you are wholesaling properties, you have to do it right. You have to treat the seller with respect. You have to honor the seller, and you have to do what you say you're going to do.
How would you like to make $1 million investing in real estate in a single year? How could somebody do that? Today, we're going to find out because I'm talking with my good friend, Cathcart. Cam, what's up? Welcome.
What is up?
Man, I think this would be a fun topic.
Yes.
$1 million a year in real estate. Have you ever made $1 million in 1 year?
I have.
In real estate?
Yes. 3 years in a row. This year, I'm not going to make
You're going to hit a little shy of that this year. 2024 is a hard year right now to invest.
It is a sucky year.
Yeah.
I mean, we're gonna do good. I think we're on pace right now for about 700,000.
Okay, that's pretty good. So how I want to walk people through kind of step by step how they can make $1 million. Now, you're not going to do it unless you have a tremendous, $20 million just bank account right now that you can just go and buy a bunch of commercial real estate. You're not going to likely get it from cash flow. You're going to have to do something else. So what would you suggest?
So if I was going to make $1 million in a year, lay out my game plan right now, starting from nothing. If I'm a beginner real estate investor. So the very first thing that I'm doing is if you dropped me into a market tomorrow, I am going to look up, and let's say that's a mid to bigger city. I'm going to look up real estate meetups in that market. And I'm going to make an outline of every single real estate meetup that is going on in that market.
Which you can find them, meetup.com?
Meetup.com.
Facebook groups?
I think Facebook groups are going to be the best way to do it. So I guess that's a great question. Or I would first go onto Facebook and type in, let's just pretend, because St. Louis is my market, you type in St. Louis real estate investors. There's going to be 10 groups that pop up. I would get into every single one of those groups and I would just write, hey, looking for real estate meetups. People are going to comment theirs. I would say, hey, I would even just love to get together with other investors and let's all meet at a bar and have drinks and talk real estate. And so I would make as many connections as possible. And the great thing about those meetings are you're meeting with wholesalers, you're meeting with real estate agents, you're meeting with other investors. And so I'm just building connections and I'm learning what people are doing, where people are investing, because it's a new market. You don't know the market, let's pretend. And so I'm just learning about the market. And over time, I'm going to learn who the wholesalers are, and I'm going to learn who the investors are. And this is one of my favorite ways to make quick money, is you just play the middleman. When a wholesaler has a deal, and I know an investor over here who is investing in that area, I'm playing the middleman, and I'm making an assignment fee. And so essentially wholesaling that property. Even in that scenario, it'd be a thing called daisy chaining, where I get it from the wholesaler and I sell it to somebody else, and I'm making a little bit of a spread. And I think a lot of people, if they invest 100% of their time into that, they can make $15,000 to $20,000 literally next month. So I'm going to get that $20,000. And then I'm gonna go invest that into direct mail marketing. And so we have Ballpoint Marketing. Yep. It's a phenomenal company. I've used them before.
They're a sponsor of the Better Life Podcast, so check them out. Ballpointmarketing.com.
To send out targeted lists.
Yep.
And I'm gonna start getting direct to seller leads, and I'm gonna start going on those appointments and using the knowledge that I've gained from these meetups and these investors that I'm meeting with. And I'm going to go buy houses, and then I'm gonna take those houses, and I'm either going to flip or I'm going to wholesale those houses.
You know what? I'd love to pause here for a second. A couple quick housekeeping things. By the way, my name is Brandon Turner. This is
Cameron Cathcart.
So we are the host of the Better Life Podcast. This is not a podcast. This is a YouTube video. But we wanted to be able to both inspire and educate people into what's possible with real estate. Now, I don't know if you're actually going to do $1 million in your first year, your second year, your third year, but I want you to show you what is possible, what people have done before. So I've been investing in real estate now for almost 20 years. I've got about 13,000 rental units across the country, about $1 billion worth of real estate total. I've worked with over 2,500 private lenders to make that happen, private investors, partners. Cam, you want to give a quick bio for yourself?
Yeah, I am a house flipper / single family rental owner. So I've got about a $15 million single family real estate portfolio, and we flip anywhere from, again, this year's not the best year. So this year we're on track for about 60, 65 houses. But the last couple of years we've done over 100 houses a year.
65 week.
Yeah.
So, but last thing I'll say in this kind of intro here is, if you find this helpful, it would really help us out if you just click that little like button on below the video that tells the YouTube, the internet gods, that this is a good video, and then subscribe if you care about building wealth without losing your soul. Both Cam and I are big fans of real estate and wealth, but we are also husbands, we're also fathers. We also care about fitness and our faith, and all those things matter to us. And so that's what we're teaching here on this channel. So follow for more on that. Now, before I get into the tactical, I want to know, again, big picture, flipping. Is that the best way to get to $1 million a year, do you think? Wholesaling, is it a combination?
Yeah, are we talking about like take home net?
Sure. You want to take home
then it's going to be flipping or wholesaling.
Okay.
I think flipping. So wholesaling is easier.
Can you explain that for those who don't know what wholesaling is?
Yeah, so wholesaling is let's pretend Carson's off camera, but Carson, he brings me a deal and he says, "Hey, Cameron, you want to buy this house for $80,000?" And I look at the numbers. I'm like, yeah, that's a really good deal. And I buy it for $80,000. And then I know Brandon loves the area that house is in, and he's looking for houses to flip in that area. And I bring it to Brandon. I'm like, hey, Brandon, you want to buy this for $100,000? And Brandon says, yes, I want to buy this for $100,000. And I say, cool. I'm just going to write, it's called an assignment of contract, which is kind of getting outlawed. Wholesaling is getting outlawed a little bit, but you really just, you're selling the contract, not the house. That's the whole rule behind that. But I'm writing him an assignment of contract for $20,000. So Brandon buys that house for $100,000 from me. I get $20,000, and then Carson gets the $80,000 for the house. I make $20,000.
Yeah. So if you had to choose flipping or wholesaling, you think you'd do a combination of both, or would you go all in on one?
If I am just starting, I'm probably focusing on wholesaling my first year.
Okay.
Because it is something that an operator can do by themselves. They don't have to have a team. As you get bigger and you start flipping, you need a project manager. You have to go visit the houses. You probably need a team to flip at scale. I don't think you need a team to wholesale at scale. So
let's just talk. What's potential profit? Like, what's a good profit, or what's a decent average profit you make on a wholesale deal? We'll start with that one, then I'll go flipping.
Yeah, wholesale is going to be anywhere from $10,000 to $15,000. Okay. We've had $30,000, $40,000, even $70,000 ones, but wholesales are typically smaller.
For easy math, let's just say 10. If you were to make $10,000 on a wholesale deal, you'd have to do 100 of them in a year in order to make $1 million.
Yes,
so,
and
okay.
That number doesn't include my cost for marketing and advertising.
Correct.
Yeah, which is
so your net has to be $10,000 of like profit.
Yes.
So you might spend $5,000 on marketing, make 15 total. And that means you're actually profiting 10, let's just say, if you don't have staff and all that. All right, so now that might be overwhelming to somebody. They're going, I can't, 100 a year? Well, I want to break that down. But before I do that, let's go to flipping real quick. What's the average profit on a flip, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably around 40 to 45, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. So again, you're going to need to do 20, 25 of those in a given year. And people might be saying, well, that's ridiculous. How could I ever do that? So whether it's 100 or 25, it's still a lot of deals. But here's what I want to make clear to people is something known as a funnel. So if you think about like a funnel, you're pouring oil in your car, right? And it goes through the funnel. It starts wide at the top and gets smaller at the bottom. The same is true for real estate. And real estate acquisitions is a funnel that the more you put in the top and the better you are at filtering, the more you get out the bottom. So in other words, if I looked at 3 properties in a whole year, in this whole year, I look at 3 properties, I go walk them, I make an offer on 2 of them, the chances that one of those is going to get accepted is pretty small. Even if I did, maybe I got one of them. Great. I got one deal this year. But what if I looked at 300 houses? And what if out of those, I made an offer on 200 of them? And out of the 200, what if 10% accepted my offer?
That's pretty much exactly what it is.
Is it? Yeah. So it's like, all right, now I got 20 deals. What if you looked at 3,000 houses? Now, again, it might be getting crazy here and you may build a team, but I want you to understand the concept of you can scale acquisitions. It's a dial. This is literally the thing that blows people's mind is that like when my team, like at Open Door Capital, which again, we think the same way about rental properties, when my team wants more deals, like I just tell them to turn the dial up. That's literally it. We turn the dial up and then we buy more properties. And then I'm like, hey, we need to focus on operations for a little bit. Let's turn. Now we literally say that terminology. I say turn the dial down, and we turn it down and we buy less deals. It's you have so much control over it. And it's based on your inputs of the work that you do.
Yeah, and extraordinary inputs equal extraordinary outputs.
Yes.
And so at the end of the day, like especially when I was really heavy in acquisitions, I'm kind of overseeing it now, but I'm not out on the ground doing it as much. It really was, if we needed more houses, I just knew, hey, I've got to turn the dial up. I'm going to have to work more. I'm going to have to go walk more houses. I'm going to have to make more offers. And I started doing that, and I would buy more houses. What's funny is then I would get lazy because I'd be like, all right, we bought 5 houses in the last 2 weeks. Now I can take a little breather and then eventually be like, all right, now I got to go buy more houses. But it is literally just a dial that you turn up and down.
This is actually such a good point. I'm glad you brought this up. This could be a whole YouTube video in itself. I do the same thing. I would get into like acquisition mode, and then I'd get a bunch of deals and I would ease off the gas and I'd go to do something else. In all business, people do this. The key that solved it for me was, and for you as well, I'm sure, is getting other people to do it, and then you become a business owner that runs a system. Because if I tell my team member, my employee, we need to pump out 10,000 direct mail letters every single month. That is your job. That's what you're rated on. You're going to get fired if you don't do it. Guess what's going to happen? They're going to get it done every single month.
Yeah.
If I tell my production video team, we need 1 YouTube video every single week to come out, that's video. That's why Carson made sure we got here today and we got this video done and we have about 5 minutes before you leave.
Yes.
Because it had to get done, because now it's not on me. If it was on me, it would not have gotten done. So the point I'll make here is, if you want to get to $1 million a year on your real estate business, you're going to need other people who are not going to get lazy, because you're going to make sure you're doing the high, rare, and valuable skill of running the business.
Which is why I think that if you're just starting out, wholesaling is probably the way that you're going to make that first $500,000 or $200,000, whatever it is, $100,000, is because you can keep the dial turned up all the time on finding deals. If you're trying to flip on top of wholesaling, you're going to find some properties, and then you got to start managing the flip, and that's going to drain you. And so, like, if you can just be focused on acquisitions from day one and have the dial at 100 all the time, you're going to be successful.
So what you said earlier, let's go back to what you said kind of at the beginning of the video. If you were gun to your head, you got to make $1 million. The first thing you do for a new person is go to market, go to all the meetups, get to know everybody, what everybody's
Every
doing,
single person.
find out what they need, find out who's got stuff, and just start putting people together, trying to bridge the gap there and trying to make some profit in between each one.
Yes.
And eventually, then I'm assuming you have some money. Now maybe you're going to do your own deals. Maybe you're not just daisy chaining some other wholesaler. You're doing your own wholesaling. You find it direct off market from somebody.
Exactly. Because in the example I gave earlier about Carson and you, Carson's probably got that deal locked up for $60,000. And then he's bringing it to me for 80, and then I'm selling it to you for 100. There's a $40,000 spread there versus
if you would have found it yourself, you could have made 40 grand on that.
Yeah. And really,
or maybe even flipped it then at that point for 100,000. Who knows?
Exactly. And really quick, I do want to say something, and I know we've talked about this a lot before, but wholesaling in a lot of ways can get really, really sketchy. And so if you're watching this and I'm throwing out wholesaling and I don't have the time to go into all of the sleaziness in wholesaling, I'll just say this. If you are wholesaling properties, you have to do it right. You have to treat the seller with respect. You have to honor the seller, and you have to do what you say you're going to do. There's a lot of people that don't do that. They take advantage of sellers, and I do not advocate for that at all. I do think that wholesaling can be done morally. I think it can be done ethically. I think a lot of people ruin it for everybody because they are just terrible human beings that take advantage of sellers. So if you're watching this, do not take advantage of sellers.
That's true. There's ways to do things ethically. There's ways to do things unethically. But you can make $1 million a year ethically if you put in the work. I want to make one more point, and then I'll let you kind of close up shop here. You are in St. Louis, where the average flip is like 40,000. That's a low price market. If you want to make $1 million a year, another option would be to go to a market like Seattle or anything in California whatsoever, anything on the coast, really, on either coast, where you buy the house. And then now we're getting into, you could be wholesaling or flipping, but your profits are significantly higher. You play a volume game in the Midwest, but on the coast, I know people making $200,000 on a single flip. They buy the house for $1 million, they put in 200 grand, and they sell it for 1.5.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. I mean, I made $1 million. My house that I bought in Hawaii 5 years ago is worth $2 million more than I paid for, $3 million more than I paid for it.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
It's great.
Because high price markets, you can have that margin.
We interviewed a guy on the podcast probably a month ago, and he made me so mad because he said, I buy 1, maybe 2 flips a year, but he's like, I will not buy a flip if I won't make more than $1 million on it.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm
doing my 40K flips
100 times what you're buying, and I'm not making as much as you.
Yeah, it's wild. So there is a volume versus depth game. Now, there's more risk in those higher ones because the market drops, you could be significantly under. And so I don't want to underplay the risks of real estate. But if you play the game right, if you continually learn, if you move forward, you can make $1 million a year. Cam Cathcart's done it. I do it every single year, multiple times, but in equity because I don't flip. So I just add millions of dollars to my net worth.
And I will say, like this year, we're not going to make that in net. But when you look,
we're halfway through the year, man.
What?
We're halfway through.
I still could.
You still could.
It could be a really good couple of months. You're right. I'm going to make it. We're going to re-record this in January of 2025, and I'm going to say I did it.
All right.
But we will add, because with rental properties and the equity, we will be over $1 million in net worth. But
there it is.
Not $1 million in take home this year.
All right, everybody. We got to get out of here. So if you like this video, like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Follow us on Instagram. I'm Beardy Brandon on Instagram, and you are
Cam Cathcart.
Cam.Cathcart?
Cam.Cathcart. Yeah, I've reached out to Cam Cathcart multiple times. I offered to buy it, and
there's a legit person named Cam Cathcart that won't sell you their name,
but he hasn't responded, so he hasn't posted for like 6 years.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you, appreciate you, good luck, and stick close to us. Follow us here if you want to learn how to build wealth without losing your soul. Peace. Hey, thanks for tuning into another episode of the Better Life Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this show and got some valuable insights to help you lead a better life for you and your family. Now, hey, if you found value in this episode, please consider subscribing here to our YouTube channel and let me know in the comments down below what you thought of this episode. I mean, your feedback actually helps us improve the show and reach more people with that message of living that better life. So be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And hey, before I go, this show and this channel is all about the habits, actions, beliefs, and strategies that give you a better life. But in case you're interested and you want to know my opinion on what it takes to live not just the better life, but the best life ever from like a spiritual and faith standpoint, check out abetterlife.com/bestlife. Thank you again for listening and watching. We'll see you next time on the Better Life Podcast.